Greetings and welcome back to the GirlBoss show, where we talk about business, life and beyond. And I am your host, Alexia from GirlBoss New Zealand, and I'm super excited to announce our amazing guests for this week's show. So thank you to these incredible guests for coming along. So starting off, we've got right on the end there, the amazing Arsena, and she is truly incredible and a very close friend of mine, and so I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
I'm excited to be here. I'm so excited.
Yeah. And you've got pretty amazing credentials. I had to like refine them down because there was a long list of incredible achievements, and she is such an inspiration. So she is an award-winning social entrepreneur, and she was named the Prime Minister's Pacific Youth Award winner in 2018. She's one of the leaders of Navigators of Success, which showcases Māori and Pacific success stories, career pathways and opportunities through events and also through social media. She's a talented public speaker and speaking at events for the Human Rights Commission and Auckland Council. She's mentored students as the Chancellor's Award for Top Pacific and Māori Scholars, was the Pacific Ambassador at the University of Auckland while studying law, and she currently works in HR at Air New Zealand, where she worked in diversity, inclusion, employee experience, and the advisory team. She is on a mission to show young Māori and Pacifica women that they can go out there and be the change. So that is pretty exciting.
Wow.
That we've got a real superstar in the building today. And our amazing younger girl boss is here. We've got the incredible Stella and the incredible Kushla, who are both so active in their communities, and I'm really excited. We've got an all-woman of colour lineup today, which is amazing. Stella's part Māori and Asena is Tongan, and we're both Pacifica as well, so it's just awesome to have you all in the studio. Now, we're going to start in true GirlBoss show tradition by going around the table and sharing our boss moment. So our boss moment is a time where we were brave or bold over recently. So does anyone have a time they were brave and bold recently and wants to start us off? Stella, you start us off. What's your boss moment?
So a couple of years ago, a friend texted me pretty last minute and was like, I've just been invited to this audition. Do you want to come with me? And I knew nothing about it. Like, I had never done any sort of acting before. So the next day we went to an audition, and there were hundreds of other girls and boys that were there. And I just went in and had the best time ever, just like with no experience, so you don't really know what you're doing. And I just had a really fun time. And it ended up paying off because it was something that I really liked to do, obviously. And I got the job.
That's amazing.
Really not sure how, but it was so fun.
What was it?
It was for, oh my gosh, American Express.
Cool.
So,
I love that.
It was an international advert, so that it was really exciting. It was, I didn't realize how big the job was, and in between like auditions and callbacks, we were getting calls saying, "You should tell your daughter, like, this is quite important," because I was coming in like, "Hi guys, my name's Stella. I've never done anything like this before." But yeah, it was a really cool advert, and it was the film day was awesome, and it was with 2 other girls, and they were really cool as well. So
I love that. You never regret the opportunity, when you don't take those opportunities. That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm really glad I did it. And then it was really cool because that's when I got signed with like an agent and stuff and got to go to other auditions. So it was really cool.
I love that. That is such an awesome boss moment. Would you like to share yours, Krishna?
Well, last year I got thrown in the deep end by my school and I competed in a prestigious like Catholic speaking competition to do with scripture verses, and we ended up placing second. And for me, I'm not a big public speaker and I don't like speaking in public. I'm not one who would put themselves forward, so it was just a big wow moment. My parents cried. They were just like, congratulations, you know, overcame your fear. And I'm just standing there like, is it over yet? So I would say that was one of my achievements at Touch Time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's incredible.
That is cool.
So cool.
That's awesome. I'm inspired. That's so cool. Alexia knows about this.
Oh, do I? Yay.
Yes, you do. The summit in Samoa, so the Women Peace Security summit, and I love talking, and I'm used to it, but I've never been flown to another country to speak before. And the panel that I was with they're a very established women. So there was a Supreme Court judge of Samoa. There was a secretary for the Cook Islands on the same panel, and then there was me. And I've never been nervous to the extent where my voice has like shook. But then the end of my speaking, I got like a massive applause. So I was very nervous. I think I went to sleep real late the night before. But I was like, at the end of it, I was really glad I did it. So
that is incredible. I love that. And we all of us have actually got quite similar boss moments around not letting that fear stop us and pushing through. I love that. So for those who are not familiar with the GirlBoss show, we do have quite a common theme, which is one girl boss to another. So we asked some of our younger girl bosses here to ask questions and challenges they're facing to our slightly older girl boss as well. And then
Not too much.
and she can just mentor right here on air. So does anyone have a question for Asina or any? Do you have a question, Stella?
I guess I have a question. So I'm assuming you grew up with quite a good understanding of your cultural identity and your sort of cultural background. And I was wondering how that sort of led you into the career path you chose and what you were studying in uni, and sort of how you balance them together and how they bounced off each other.
At this present moment, I'm so proud of my cultural heritage, but it was a journey. So I grew up in Mangere East, from South Auckland, 275 proud. But I got a scholarship from Mangere East Primary to St. Cuthbert's College, and if you don't know about St. Cuth's, it's predominantly European and Asian. Those are the students that go there. And for someone from Mangere and, the slightly taller than average, young, brown, basically a kid, I was coming straight from primary to kind of be thrown into that. And it was a culture shock, and I kind of didn't have any other, I did have a choice. Either I could, assimilate and try and be as much like what I saw at my college as possible, or I could just be me and my glory and exactly who I am. And I think I made a very conscious decision early on to just be who I am and be proud of being brown and being from Mangere. And my year 13 speech, so my last speech was actually called South Auckland and Proud, and I actually won. I won the speech competition. And so being so proud of my culture is something that I decided to be, and it kind of came, like, it's not something that I just was born being, it's something that I had to choose to be. And that's what led me to doing the work that I do and the jobs that I choose to do, is because I want to not only represent that kind of Pacific culture in spaces like corporate and even government to an extent where there aren't many Pacific and Māori representation. I want to be in those spaces so I can not only represent but encourage more to come through, and not only come through but come through and thrive. And if I can kind of straddle the worlds between, being from South Auckland and being proud and then coming into corporate and being exactly who I am in that space, I feel like that will just make our society in general a better place because, there's just more representation, more diverse thinking and solutions to problems. So, yeah, that's
amazing.
So cool.
And yeah, and do any of you two, have you ever had a time where you felt like you've had to kind of navigate your culture in a new environment, or kind of feel like you're in two worlds? Is there, how do you show up and bring your cultural identity to what you do?
Personally, I have similar experiences. It was a culture shock coming into St. Mary's with a predominantly European school. So being thrown in the deep end, I thought I had to act white as to fit in, and over the years I kind of had to adjust and like, wait, no, it's okay to be be proud, be who I am. It was something that I had to adjust to and just like let down that barrier, let down that wall. But it did take some time. Yeah. And it's something I'm not proud of to say that I did act in that way, but at the time I thought it was the best way to act. But listening to you speak, it really did hit home for me.
Absolutely. And it's often that is a thing that we have to face, is that we feel like we have to fit into another standard. And what about you, Stella? Has there ever been a time where you felt like, being, because you're part Māori as well, and maybe even just being of multiple cultures, is that?
Yeah, I think it's quite confusing, especially as a young kid, because you kind of don't know what you are or who you should say you are or where you're from. I think one of the first times that I kind of got a bit of a shock was the first time that I went to my marae. And it was for my koro's tangi. That was one of the first times that I went when many people were there. And I was saying to my mum on the way there, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like everyone's going to be like, why is this white girl here, blah, blah, blah. But that was the first time I think I sort of felt out of place. And it was kind of sad because I thought about it, and I'd spoken to another friend a couple of years later when I went to another program at Auckland Uni, and there was a marae there, and it was only for Māori students. And I went there, and I was obviously the most white-looking kid there. And halfway through, I said to one of my friends, oh my gosh, I feel like everyone thinks I shouldn't be here. I feel really out of place. And then something my friend said, it really threw me back, and she was like, Stella, that's kind of how I feel at school a lot of the time. And to me it was really upsetting to hear, because to hear someone feels out of place at a place they're at 5 times a week, it's really sad. And this was only a one-time thing, and people probably didn't care as much as I thought. But it was kind of a reminder to me that I don't have it as hard as a lot of other Māori and Pacifica girls. I have that privilege of looking very much white and being partly Pākehā. So yeah, that was a time that I felt out of place, but kind of then took a step back and realised like I don't have it very badly,
Yeah, and I think what's so important is that all those experiences are so valid, and I know that often that kind of feeling. We're running a GirlBoss Advantage program at the moment for Māori and Pacifica young women. And, I hear these stories from girls who say to me, can I still apply? I'm part Māori, or I'm only part Pacifica. I don't know if I feel Pacifica or Māori enough to apply. And, I've had those comments before, and that's really upsetting to me, because I really do reassure them that, that identity is so personal to you, and it's not something that you can really quantify based on kind of surface level things like skin colour or things like that. And I think it's really important that we really create a space where we all feel like we can embrace our culture. And that's something that hits home to me too, because I'm part Greek and part Samoan. But, you know, at the same time, there was times when I was younger, particularly when I'd go to Pacifica events and I'd think, am I Pacifica enough to be here? And then, and you had to kind of go through all those feelings, which was really hard, until I just thought, you know what, if I feel that like that, then I'm just going to embrace that. And I actually found that when I stepped into it, that people were really accepting of me, and a lot of the time that judgment that I thought I would experience, that didn't come true. It was actually judgment that I put on myself.
So as someone who, highly respects people who have great grades and, good school ethics, work ethics, I strive to get those good grades, but sometimes there are often people who say you only get those good grades because you hang out with certain people, and that comes down to the cultural side of things. I have a lot of European friends, so a lot of my Islander friends will say you only get good grades because you hang out with that group of people. So how do you deal with the tall poppy syndrome? This can apply to both of you.
Yeah.
How do you cope with that, and how do you make it more of something that you can lift yourself off rather than something that can put yourself down, if that makes sense?
Absolutely.
I remember having this exact conversation with Alexia on the Pacific mission, and it's something that I really struggled with last year. So I think it all comes down to honestly how you feel about yourself. And I only say that because I've gone through so much internal, very introspective, like looking at who am I? Why do I want to do the things that I do? What is the true purpose of why I'm doing everything? And I came to this realization, halfway through last year, and till now, exactly why. Like I kind of solidified why, because comments like what you're saying, and they those types of comments come from everyone, and I think especially in Aotearoa, New Zealand, it's such a problem. Tall poppy syndrome is such a problem, and we have it under the guise of humility and being humble, and I've always had an issue of that, because I don't think true humility is cutting down someone because they're proud of themselves or their achievements or their accomplishments. I truly believe that humility is in the way that we treat each other and how we act, and our compassion and our kindness, and that's what I think true humility is. So when I always hear this, this guise of, you should be humble, you shouldn't talk about your accomplishments, but the way that I got around that was because I realized that me saying, I went to Samoa to speak at this event, or I'm being interviewed on GirlBoss New Zealand with, a bunch of girl bosses next to me, it wasn't about necessarily me. It was about the greater impact of saying that out loud. And if someone happened to stumble upon me saying that on my social media, or watching at home, or listening through other avenues, and they were inspired by what I said and they wanted to aim higher because of what I said, that meant more than trying to be humble and trying to keep it under wraps, and talking about, the only reason why you have grades is because of your relationships. I think that's just a cop-out. And why I brought up the fact that I had to look inwards is because you have to realize that a lot of what people say are usually about themselves. It's always, like in most cases, it's a projection of how they feel about themselves. So when you look introspectively as to why do you do certain things and why do you want to strive for these goals, that sort of, like noise, because essentially it's just noise that's not going to help you get to where you want to go. That stuff is not to do with anything internally. So when you're strong inside as to why do you want to do these things, and why do you want to thrive, and why do you want to succeed, a lot of the noise and these remarks and these actions that people do because of their own insecurities, which is true, it is. Like, I know that. Like, I experience insecurities, and I experience that as well. I'm not like this innocent, pure soul that's gone through this like revelation. I understand, and I understand why this happens because of experience. So I feel like just looking inwards as to why you do what you do and why you want to achieve, and the greater purpose of it and the impact of what you're doing is such a good way to kind of, just silence the noise, and it just becomes background to an extent where you don't really care. Like, I say that from experience because I'm at a point where I don't care. Like, I don't care if what I say negatively impacts you, because I know the greater impact of what I'm doing and why I'm saying this and why I'm doing this. So if you choose to take it negatively, that's your issue, because I know purely why I'm choosing to do this. So yeah, I hope that helps.
Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think once you become clear on your values and your purpose and your why, then if you stay true to that, and you're always turning up there authentically, and you're staying true to those values, then and that's a huge learning point for me. Then when you receive that criticism or those comments, then you have the confidence to say, actually, no, I know that these are my values. I know that's why I'm doing that, and so I'm able to have the confidence to block that out. But it's been a huge learning journey for me in tall poppy syndrome right throughout my later years of high school, and then starting GirlBoss as well, because I started GirlBoss at only 16, and doing that in a school, and in a school environment was definitely harder. But I think things do start to get better once you leave school as well, which is really good. So another bit of advice is, you're in year 13 this year? Year 13 this year, so not too long to go. But I think the biggest part of it is know your why. So you're going out there, you're an inspiration and a role model to other people, and even if some people might say a negative comment, think about that year 9 student who just joined this year, who's looking up and seeing their deputy head girl, and it looks like them. And that's the sort of motivation, that's what will keep you going when you do get those negative comments.
Yeah, you'll be helping so many girls without even realising, coming into a school where maybe they, girls don't see as many Pacifica leaders or something, seeing someone like you up on stage, or getting good grades. It's other people's problem if they don't like that you're doing well, I reckon just keep doing well,
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have another question, Stella?
I would like to know what makes you feel good as a Pacifica woman when you're at work. What are some things that you'd say, encourage you? And, I know my mum's spoken to me, and she's told me about one of her friends, and she was like, oh, there's my friend, I really appreciate it. Every time she sees me, and when she says hello, she says kia ora, Rhonda. And there's like small things that she does that really, make you feel valid. And what are some things that people have done or you've done with your work that kind of have fueled your passion for culture and cultural diversity and inclusivity?
Simple things, like simple things, pronouncing my name correctly.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started, everyone used to pronounce it incorrectly, and it's gone to a point now, I've been there for a couple months now, and just seeing how ingrained the correct pronunciation of my name is. Cool. And I know that's such a simple thing, and it might seem a bit minor, but in the big scheme of things, it really made a big difference.
Yeah.
And as you said, the use of kia ora and ngā mihi, the Māori, the Samoan, the Tongan greetings. I even got like different Pacific greetings.
Oh, cool.
So I feel like small things in the grand scheme of things, they make a big difference. Yeah. And also, this doesn't necessarily tie to being, straight Pacific, but, it has connections. Even when I mentioned that I lived in Mangere and not having, my colleagues be like, oh God, oh my goodness. But just having them just like, oh, cool, and just it being a very normalized thing. Was cool. And I think it just brings it back to, as a Pacific woman, yes, I'm in these spaces, and I know the strength and power in my cultural heritage, but at the same time, sometimes you just want to be kind of judged on your own merits and your own your work and what you're doing, and not necessarily seen as the Pacific person or the go-to for pronunciations of te reo Māori, because I'm Tongan, I might necessarily know all the te reo Māori words. And I think just being seen for my work ethic and my own merit is something that makes me really proud, because it's not, because I just don't want to be known as the Pacific person in a, especially in a, your workplace. But in saying that, that doesn't detract from how proud I am to be Pacific, and I know the values and mindsets of being a Pacific person has taken me so far. But at the same time, being Pacific, although so important, is just a part of many parts that make up who I am as a person. I'm a woman. I always say this. I'm from Mangere. I'm heterosexual. There's so many moving parts that make up who I am. So I also wanted to say that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about you two? Being in your school environment, is there anything that you feel that people at your school or could do to support you, or has there been anything that you've seen people that have done that you think, wow, that was really supportive, or made you feel included?
It's just with little things like pronouncing my last name correctly. Pronunciation of names is a big thing, especially when my parents are around. They do take offence when you get caught up in front of the whole school and the teacher mispronounce your name. It's a bit of, I look out to my parents and they're smiling, but then you can also see the upset look on their face when they pronounce your last name wrong. So it's just little things of correct pronunciation, just talofa, like kia ora, just Pacific greetings, just little things like that really do so it's like a warm feeling within yourself, for sure.
Absolutely.
I think it's the same thing. It's just the small things, and hearing how happy my mum is when her friends, say kia ora instead of like, oh, hi. Yeah. And it's the same at school, I like it when teachers write the date up on the board in Māori. I think that's really cool. Or even if, they fudge it, like people trying to, give their pepeha when at the start of the year, and small things like that. I think it's really cool. And I think it's also cool because I take Māori as well at school, is seeing like a range of ethnicities being interested in taking it. And it's also cool, when you see your friends, because most of my friends are Pākehā, when they're interested in it and, oh, what are you doing for your Māori today? Or, like even my middle name, because my middle name is Perenara. And when I have my friends that don't know my middle name yet, and then I tell them and they try and pronounce it and they don't laugh when they're trying to say it, because sometimes it can be a bit awkward when you mess it up. But I think when you see people who are genuinely interested and excited about your culture, it's really validating. And it's really exciting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was a really important mention there around a lot of the time people feel that pressure to do it perfectly. So then they think, if I can't do it perfectly, I just won't do it at all. And and sometimes they can feel nervous and uncomfortable, but actually, when they put in that little bit of effort, it really is well received and means a lot to people. And is there any businesses that you've seen that have been really sort of doing great things in diversity and inclusion?
Is this to mention my own work?
Yeah, well, of course.
I work at Air New Zealand, and I interned through Tuputoa in diversity and inclusion, and I think they're doing incredible things. I know with every organisation there's so much there's a long way to go, but we have targets in terms of our female in leadership, our females in leadership, and we had a 40% target that all our SLT roles will be 40% women. Awesome. From a baseline, I think it was below 20.
Wow.
20%, and we achieved that really quickly. We have targets for I think 20% of the Māori and Pacific population to be in leadership roles, and we're working on that through Māori and Pacific leadership programs such as Mangopare. Cool. We have our Tuputoa internship program, which is how I became the first corporate graduate at the company. I also know that Auckland councils are doing incredible things. And I know that because I interned with them at Diversity Inclusion. So I speak from experience. It's not all hearsay. This is experience, hard facts. But I have seen a real paradigm shift for the and I think a lot of people bring up the phrase token representation, and I understand where their issues are with that. But at the same time, being in these spaces, I know that there is definitely genuine intentions, and there is a beautiful value on Māori and Pacific, diversity and inclusion. And I know there's such buzzwords, but if you're in these spaces seeing the impact of all the work, then you'll know and understand what I mean. And as someone who is in these spaces and seeing the first-hand impact of this work, I truly value diversity and inclusion. I think there needs to be more, to the extent where it's not just, buzzwords or tokenism. It's actual, like, a normalization of not only Māori and Pacific, but all types of ethnicities, sexualities, ages. Everything is rightly represented. Yeah, so
absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's such a big point, because I think often I often hear people talk about tokenism, and I feel like it's just so much conversation for something that doesn't happen as much as people think. They think, if we need to get more women leaders, then suddenly we'll need to be hiring all these underqualified women, and it's going to be a big disaster. But then actually in practicality, when I see organisations that have met those targets, they've got highly capable and talented and respected diverse members of staff in those leadership positions. And, I think often people call things tokenism when they actually mean a lot to people. People might even say how, your teacher writes the date on the board in Te Reo. They might say, oh, that's tokenism, but then actually that means a lot to you. So I feel like often people are quick to call things that, when actually they can have real genuine impact to the culture of an organisation and to people really feeling included. Yeah, and what would you say to an organisation who is watching this and you're thinking, what sort of strategies I can do to make people feel more included?
So I definitely wholeheartedly believe in Tupitoa. Is that a plug? Sponsor me, Tupitoa. No, I'm just kidding. I just believe in their kaupapa. I believe in their movement, and in increasing, talking about increasing different ethnicities in corporate and government organisations. They're doing exactly that.
Cool.
Also representing in age diversity, because all of them are quite young. And also so based on what Air New Zealand is doing, there's a massive emphasis on employee networks, and employee networks is kind of the in-between. We have like the Māori and Pacific network, we have the Asia network, which is the Asian network, we have our disability network, we have we just have so many different employee networks, and that's where we get what the employees want. So in terms of what goals do we want to achieve in terms of Māori and Pacific representation, what like in terms of disability network, what are we working on to get the accessibility tick, which we have. Yes. Those all those goals and ambitions are led by diversity and inclusion, but they're further fueled by these employee networks, because that's how you understand what the employees want, and the employees are representation of New Zealand Aotearoa in general. So if you get those networks kind of having their input, then you get essentially what everyone wants. And
the customers want, right? It reflects the customers as well.
Exactly. There's, and I think that not only goes wonders in terms of the culture of the organisation, but also just the longevity of people staying with that company and feeling loyal to that company. I feel like if you treat your employees right, then they'll treat, you scratch my back, I scratch yours.
Absolutely.
But I think that's my number one thing to any organisations that are listening, is listen to your employees, create these networks, and hear what they have to say.
Yeah, and adding on to that, I would say have those networks, but also don't be afraid to fund those networks as well. There's so often I go to like women's organisations, networks at a company, and they're self-funding the biscuits and the tea and the coffee, and I think really, just and these are pretty substantial sized organisations, not naming any in particular, but just like invest in them, really show and put resources and time into those networks, because it does mean so much to those employees. And so often women I've met in different women's networks say it's their highlight of coming to work is actually going to their weekly or fortnightly events. So absolutely. Yeah, cool. I love that.
And I think what you said about like understanding your employees and like your audience, I think that's so important as well. because, you know, they're a representation, as you said, of what everyone else in that community wants and needs. And I think that's why it's so important that there are Pacifica and Māori leaders as well, you know, because they get to also be involved in making those changes, and they also have that background and understanding in what the real lifestyle is like growing up with that. And I think that's so important. I think that's cool that Air New Zealand is doing it as well, you know?
Yeah.
They are. My boss is watching. No,
Okay, so a bit of like a topic change. I really want to get your thoughts on all the different ways you can create impact. And I'm really interested in all of your thoughts, and particularly yours, Asena, because you've worked in corporate, you've worked in non-profit social enterprise space, you're working soon in the government space, and I know people have said before that you might be our Prime Minister one day. That has been talked about, which would be amazing, and I'd love that. So, you know, there's so many different ways to create impact. In your experience, in your opinion, what is the most effective way, or what's your thoughts?
I've said this before, but I truly believe that the greatest impact anyone can have is honestly working on themselves. I feel like, you know, if you talk about society and societal impact, you know, we forget sometimes what makes up society, and we make up society. And I feel like just by working on yourself and wanting better for yourself, you naturally encourage everyone around you, and then that flow-on effect of just being who you are and staying true to yourself and working on, because I say this from experience, there's so much that I need to work on, like in terms of my own personal beliefs, my insecurities, and I know that when I actively work towards resolving those issues within me, I know that it has a greater impact on who I am and what radiates from me. And when what radiates with me is you know, beautiful and full of energy and, you know, love for myself, that impacts everyone else around me, and that impacts what I choose to do and why I choose to do it. So I will never stop saying that I feel like our society just honestly, instead of tall poppy syndrome and focusing on what everyone else is doing, just focus on yourself. Like honestly, I think that is the number one thing that anyone can do, is just stop focusing on everyone else and just be good with yourself. But like, it must be different. Like, I'm so interested to hear what everyone else has to say.
Thank you.
Do you want to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. I think being aware of yourself and others as well. I think something for me is I tend to get very caught up in, you know, when I talk to my mum, is, you know, issues that Māori face and Māori and Pacifica face, because she works at Starship Hospital, and she works with many Māori and Pacifica that have rheumatic heart disease and rheumatic fever. But I think it's also important to always, you know, think about others as well. You know, there are always issues that other people are facing, and other, you know, small things that people face every day as well that maybe like we don't notice as well. So I think for me personally, it's keeping in mind that there's not one group or one type of person that struggles with one type of thing. It's that everyone has their own sort of baggage. And I think being aware of other people as well, and just keeping in mind that, you know, other people probably have stuff going on in the background that we don't know about as well, and being open to, you know, helping out with that, or being open to listening to that as well.
That is so valid. That is so valid.
That was really beautiful. Like,
Thank you. Incredible.
Mum's, we were talking about it in the car on the way here, and she was, you know, she's really passionate about, you know, getting more funding for, you know, research into rheumatic fever and rheumatic heart disease, because a lot of it is linked to, you know, poor housing and poverty, which a lot of Māori and Pacifica live in, and that then leads to, you know, sore throats. And then because they not a lot of Māori and Pacifica families don't have enough money to, you know, maybe go and have a checkup with the doctor and things like that, they end up, you know, getting strep throat and then rheumatic fever. And, you know, that can prevent so many things, like a proper education, because they're stuck in a hospital. and it all sort of comes from that, just living in a poor home, or, you know, not being able to sort of get yourself out of that situation from the start.
Absolutely. And I think that even highlights to me the importance of diversity. You know, the fact that your mum has you know, a connection to the Māori community. She's really enabled to do her job better and have compassion, and that just further emphasises why we need diversity in all careers. And people need to reflect the population, absolutely.
Yeah, and she loves it as well.
Oh,
she loves
awesome.
working with all the Māori and Pacifica families, and you know, and she loves the research as well. And it's awesome to see, like, how excited she is about, you know, being able to tell more people about it. So I'm just like kind of echoing what she's already said to me. She was talking to me in the car about it, and I was like, I really want to say this. I really want to talk about this.
No, it's really important that message gets out there. Absolutely. Go your mum. We love that. She can be next week's guest. Yeah. Awesome. Kusha.
As a daughter of someone, hi mum, of someone who leads a Pacifica network group within the school, and we also have a whānau group for the Te Reo Māori students, I see a lot of the issues that do get brought up that's what my mum tries to solve or provide solutions for. So I guess just having that network itself within the school is already a massive impact on the school community. As a Pacifica student, it's hard to ask for help. I think it just comes with the cultural side of things, of like, oh, I can do it myself, I don't need to ask for help. But having someone else say, hey, do you need help? What can I help you with?
Yes.
I think it kind of breaks down that barrier of being afraid of reaching out and asking people. Just that whole idea of the fear. A lot of the Pacifica students that I talk to, they are afraid of asking their teacher just a simple, like, putting up their hand. They're afraid of being rejected. So I think the Pacifica network within the school community is a great platform to for initiatives and to ask for help.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've got the best mums, don't we?
I know. Go your mum as well. She seems so cool.
And that's such a valid point. Absolutely. Does anyone have any more questions or topics for our wonderful guests? That anything they've seen?
I've just got a quick
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, sure.
How did you juggle cultural obligations and school life? Or
That's a very hard one. I think because as you mentioned before, especially I think this is similar with all cultures, but we not more so than anyone else in Pacific cultures, there's a massive emphasis on the collective and on family, and it's really hard, especially if you're young, to kind of know the boundaries of where you are and when you need to be there for your family. And that's why I said, my tip before was focus on yourself, because sometimes you really neglect yourself when the focus is the collective and your family, and it's a decision between, do I need to study or do I need to take my dad to his doctor's appointment or to the hospital? How do you prioritize yourself and studying for this assignment when it's basically a life or death situation, which I know that in a lot of families, not necessarily maybe life or death, but it is like either, your study or someone's health. And how do you honestly prioritize that, especially if you're the only person that could be there? And I know this from experience. And honestly, it's so difficult. And for me to be like, you got to do this, this, and this is completely just not viable. But what I will say is that those opportunities where you have that time for yourself, and I know they might be few and far in between, but I wish back then when I looked at my university self, there were definitely moments where I could have used to focus on myself, either by studying or by doing this, and if I could just sacrifice that time instead of maybe lounging around watching TV, which is also important, you're gonna have some leisure time, but there was definitely more times than not where I was just chilling rather than putting that time in. And I think when you do have that time, then focus on your goals and ambitions, and with the knowledge that the stuff that you're going through now is not forever. And, you're studying right now, and, soon you're going to be in university, and then from university, you don't know where you're going to end up. So I think I wish that I could go back to my younger self and be like, this is not going to last forever. This is a moment of toughness that you have to go through. It will make you resilient, and it will make you stronger, and it will make you better equipped to handle other things that are going to come into your life, but it's not going to last forever. And if you just get that mentality and just like rough it out and just be like, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to put my priorities in, and I'll put some me time and study time and family time, and if that means sacrificing some other time just for the time being, because you're gonna blink and you'll finish high school, and you're gonna blink and you're gonna finish university. These moments they go by so fast. I love to have a separate conversation about this, because I think that's a whole topic in itself, but off the top of my head, I think that's what I would say is, when you do have the time, then prioritize your priorities, basically what I'm saying, family and your future. And when there is other time to maybe chill with friends or do all the stuff, then you do that. But this your high school journey, it's going to come to an end soon. So just keeping that in mind, that if you're going through hardships, you're gonna get through, and it's gonna end soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And every sacrifice that you make now, you're going to get that reward in the end. And a saying that I like to use is, if you want opportunities that not many people get, you need to make choices that not many people make. And you do sometimes need to work a little bit harder and really balance your all your different commitments. But that's just going to build your strength to go out there and continue impacting the world on a larger scale, and build all those resources and skill sets within yourself to help you contribute even more and make a bigger impact. Absolutely. And Asina, do you have a question for these wonderful girls? Just to throw it back, put you in the hot seat now. Put them in the hot seat now.
I actually, because apart from my youthful appearance, it's been a while since the tongue and glow. It's been a while since I've been in high school, so my advice might not be as relevant. But I feel like there's going to be some high school students, or even some primary students that are watching now, some very young girl bosses that would like any advice that you have on conquering high school. What's the best advice that you could give our younger, because I'm still young, younger girl bosses for their time and their journeys in either primary or high school?
Absolutely. We've got two amazing high achievers here who are doing incredible things and really leading in both their different schools. So I'm excited.
I feel like maybe you should go first, because you're much further through in your high school life than I am. I can only give
you're 15.
2 years of advice.
Yeah, 2 years of advice. Okay. So I'd say know your why. You go to school for the education, so all your friendship problems or the noises, those will die off soon, but your education is really important. And I'd say just be grateful that you are receiving a great education. And the second thing I'd say is, it's okay to not know who you are. As time passes, you'll gradually become more confident in yourself. So just keep speaking to your parents, speak to your friends if you are struggling with your inner identity and struggling to find who you are and who you want to be. It's okay to be lost. Just know that there are people around you that love and adore you. So
I love that. That's amazing. That is so
cool.
good. No wonder you're an award-winning speaker, because that was beautiful. Thank you.
I'd say high school is very much a time of self-improvement. Even I look back at videos or photos of me in year 9, and I'm there like, oh my God, why did I do that? But it's definitely a time where you just make mistakes, and there's no way of avoiding making mistakes. You're always going to do something, and then, you'll look back at it and be like, that was probably quite dumb. But I think that's what ends up making high school so enjoyable, and coming out of it, you end up being, you know, a better person most of the time, because making those mistakes is what teaches you a lesson. And I've only been at high school for 2 years, but it's really fun as well. As well as it being difficult at sometimes, it's so fun, and I'm sure you guys will all agree that high school is most of the time a really fun experience. So enjoy it. Enjoy having the comfort of being in, you know, having that one community, because when you leave, you're going to be kind of thrown into a community and a space where you don't know everyone, you don't get to, you know, form close relationships with every single person you meet. So have fun. Try hard in school as well. Try really hard. If you find a subject difficult, it's okay. I do. I find a lot of subjects quite difficult. And try new things as well, because that's a lot of the time where you find, you know, your skills. And, you know, I've tried things that I never thought of trying when I was in primary school, and then I ended up loving them. So, yeah.
I love that.
Give everything a go.
That is fantastic. And I've got a sister who just started this year in year 7, so I'll make sure she watches this video and gets your incredible advice. That's amazing. Team, we are nearing the end of the show, and it just shows how time has flown when we're having fun with this amazing crew. But what I want to end is, I want us to end with a word that we're going to, or a feeling or an emotion or a theme that we're going to bring into the next week. So what's a real kind of energy that we are going to be living as we go forward into the future? So I'll start. My word for the week is around being bold. So I've got a lot of different projects on at the moment, and just really making sure that I'm kind of being bold and taking risks to navigate that. So that's my word, being bold.
Oh my gosh, I can't think of
Should
one.
I go?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think you should go.
This was actually given to me by my friend. So we
Oh, I
had
love
this
that.
we had this exact same exercise, and we told each
good.
other, like,
You're
we were like,
prepared.
I did my due diligence. But we said, like, what would be the word that we gave each other, and
cool.
and my friends gave me the word fearless, which is something that I've taken and I've owned, because last year was such a hard year for me, and I let a lot of my fears of, you know, what if I don't do this, or what if I don't you know, make it to this place, and I let it bog me down to the extent where it really impacted what I thought about myself. And that's why I know there's definitely going to be fears, but I'm going to try be as fearless as possible. So yeah,
I love that, and I really feel like you embody fearless too.
Yeah.
So that is a perfect word for you.
I'd say proud, being proud of who you are, being proud of your successes, joined by 3, you know, proud young women right here. So I think being proud, and with that feeling, you'll have confidence in yourself. So yeah.
Yeah,
being
absolutely.
proud.
That's so important.
I'd probably say joyful or excited, or some synonym for that word. Because I think it's important to really enjoy what you do in life, because I know sometimes I get caught up in, you know, the challenges or how something's difficult. So I think, you know, finding the joy in each day, finding something to be excited about, finding something to be proud of, you know, being fearless, you know, I think they're all really important.
Absolutely. So a big thank you to these 3 incredible women with me here right now. I feel so lucky to have them in studio and hear their incredible insights and advice and perspective. And I'd like to give a big thank you to everyone watching, and feel free to put any comments, questions, potential guests for next week, or themes that we can discuss down in the comments below. So I'm really grateful to these 3. I'm grateful for you for watching, and have a great week. And you are watching the GirlBoss Show. Thank you.